That's it. Yeah. Anyway, so we are half an hour in, and that means it's time to go to the topic. Spencer, do you want to?
I just transitioned this over. This is the new look. I
Oh,
might be
hell
I might be
yeah.
tweaking it because I haven't seen it with the chat box active, so I need to find a
Oh,
placement for
Chat
that.
box.
But
oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let us know how this looks for us, guys. Leave a comment here, message us on our Instagram.
Yeah.
We're always open for that kind of a thing. But yeah, so today this is not a
And hold on,
podcast episode.
I'm gonna be right back. If there's an
Okay.
issue with the stream, message me. But I will be right back.
Yeah. So I'll introduce the topic today. We are this is not a podcast episode. This is our one of our free weeks where we get to talk about things that people submit to us or just things that are happening in menswear. And today I thought it'd be fun to talk about the recent permanent style essay that came out. I'm gonna link it right now in the chat here. This is it here. It is an article called Flash versus Fuddy. Let's
And this is a new
discuss.
Marvel comic, I assume, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Or DC.
We all know
sorry.
Fuddy.
Sorry.
The chat overlaps just a little bit. I think it's okay. Spencer can just sit on the other side of his camera, I think. But yeah, let me first off, let me go through this essay here. I put it in the chat again if you guys want to take a look. If Simon, if you're watching, I don't know what time it is here, but feel free to join us in the chat if you want to discuss.
He's a regular.
But I'm just going to read through the first part of the article here. He goes, I reckon men face two polarized dangers in their style that hasn't been discussed before, at least not formalized. One is being too flash or showy. The other is appearing too old-fashioned, a fuddy-duddy. For example, when guys wear shorts, when guys wear shoes that are too pointy, trousers that are too tight, or shirts unbuttoned a bit too far, they risk looking flash. But equally, when they favor high-waisted trousers, fedoras, and braces, they can risk looking too fuddy. And he's saying that he's leaning into the alliteration. And in many ways, these are two extremes of a spectrum, like formal versus informal, urban versus rural. And so he illustrates this with the Roger. Simon is definitely here. Yeah, come on out, Simon. Anyway. So he said this argument or this kind of idea came in a conversation about loafers. He was talking with somebody about the Belgravia tassels from Edward Green, and they're a little too flash. Personally, those shoes look pretty normal to me. And then so the tassels for this particular person he was talking to was associated with toffs and playboys. I don't know what a toff is, but sure. And then
Sounds
they
like a slur.
also it's almost racist. They also weren't a fan of his Alden LHS loafers. It looks too wide, too chunky, and reminiscent of an old man's slipper. And the perfect loafer, after a bit of internet show and tell, which I'm sure all of us have done, where you talk to someone about menswear and you have to just pull up stuff on Google or Instagram and you go, well, look at this. This looks fine, right?
Yeah.
Was the Edward Green Piccadilly, which has a slimness of the Belgravia, but without the tassels, a perfect midpoint between Flash and Fuddy. And so he talks about how, Flash feels it has more obvious style. It's sexy, blah. It's easier to sell on people because of how attention grabbing it is. It tends to look good on models, and it feels young, whatever. And then Fuddy, he calls it more elegant and classic. It's traditional. It feels authentic, whatever that means. As we've talked about in the previous streams and podcasts and essays here, the charms are subtler. It could be seen as more sophisticated and intelligent. And he says that most people in menswear, or at least the permanent style type of people, will go in that end. But of course, they don't want to go too far because it looks too period. And it's this whole essay again. I'm not going to read the whole. It's a very short essay if you guys want to read it. But it's a very interesting dichotomy between Flash and Fuddy, and I'm sure we have a lot of guests here today. By the way, I'm Ethan, I'm Wong, we got Spencer, we've got our friends Jason and Matt here, civilian Matt, on camera for us. And then of course we got a couple people in the Discord chat room for us in the Discord channel that might share some comments once I recommend for them to put a message in live if they want to say something, so that way we are prepared that people don't talk over each other. But this whole thing is an interesting dichotomy because I personally don't see this as two ends of the same spectrum. Um, I don't think that Flash, like, how should I put this? And there's a reason why I didn't write an essay on this because this is, not something I've thought of. But a tight shirt, the antithesis of that isn't just having a baggy shirt because it's like, I don't know, is this more of like an aesthetics thing?
Mm. Yes.
It kind of is, but like it's as Kiyoshi will I'm sure we'll talk about later. This is kind of a conversation about what is considered cool, and because when you like high-waisted trousers, you can wear high-waisted trousers without looking fuddy. Like it doesn't look too period because a lot of menswear wears high-waisted trousers.
I
Even
mean,
like
look at all of
people.
us. We're so cool.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and as we've talked about before in the future of menswear, you've got the what do you call it? Like that the Dickies work pants are pretty high waisted. I mean, maybe compared to like what you get at H&M or something like that. You know, um, and it's just it's kind of a weird thing where this stuff is always based on context. It's always based on well, your point of view and your context, right? Like it's interesting how high-waisted pants to Simon, and again, London's a different place than America, obviously.
Mm.
Right? Yeah, totally
Wow.
novel idea.
Alright.
But it's funny, like, oh, high-waisted pants, that's too fuddy. But like I've heard a lot of people go like, oh, high-waisted pants, that's too fashion forward, and I'm like, well, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Right.
so it's such a an interesting point of view. And what I like the effort of this article, but what ends up happening is that this is a very menswear centric point of view, right? Like,
Mhm.
high-waisted pants are fuddy, the tight shirts are flashy, but do we consider tight shirts to be like, I mean, I don't think anyone in menswear likes tight shirts, and especially this niche. And like it's like a totally different perspective. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like this is
Right.
interesting.
It's like
I don't.
the flashy people tend to be more of the alpha people, right? And then they're the middle ground between the two, is sort of like the hashtag menswear people.
Right, right. It's like it's like you want to be in this. I mean, Simon's whole thing is about wanting to be safe, right? And I can understand the issue here, and this is something we've also talked about, like where what's the difference between, or what's the good middle ground between looking, I don't know if flashy is the right word, but having a very discernible aesthetic, a very discernible, like bold, I guess maybe bold's the right style, and
Mad
then
King George.
Mhm.
Mad King George, or looking a little too buddy, right? Like where you look, I don't know, this could be a case of semantics, right? Where
It's sort of like when you see it too.
yeah, I
There's
mean,
a lot of
because it's just all of these things, right? Have a very discernible, at least to me, have a very like specific guy that they're doing. I think Dan's talking about here a certain guy in the Facebook group, very flashy, a little in Fuddy. But I don't know. I mean, I know Spencer just got back, but Jason, what do
just
you
got
think about
back.
this kind of uh dichotomy?
This
yeah.
kind
It's
of
sort right.
phenomenon.
I mean, yeah. It's a weird. I think it's a weird thing that it's. He talks about it like it's a Venn diagram, but it's really just two separate circles.
Right.
That because on one hand you have, of course, you have the really flashy, right? You think like the 2000s and like
And a Euro
2010, like,
trash too, a little
right,
bit, right?
exactly,
Like
Euro
very,
trash, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Berlin club kids, where
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
everything was like, like three sizes too small.
yeah,
And then the other hand, you do have the people who you know physically embody like your grandfather, not just like taking ideas, but like literally it's like, they're wearing his clothes and they don't fit him.
yeah.
And
Do
so
you?
it's
Yeah, go ahead.
um So it's just weird to like sort of compare it as if like like I said, as if they're two sides of the same coin, because they're really not, because those two people have completely different outlooks and have different like thought processes behind what they're wearing and why they're wearing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, do people really fall? I mean, again, I'm just being quite general, but I don't think people fall into this trap as much as I think they do. Most people who do this end up not liking classic, or the classic menswear that we're into, to a degree, right? Because the Flash guys, whether wearing sizes too tight, if you want to me, that's hashtag menswear.
Mhm.
Like that's like a very separate point of view, and very different, the different goals and what they're trying to accomplish, right? Like there is, Flash attention grabbing. I don't know if that's exactly the goal, but it's just a little too
And there's also like tacky, right?
modern.
There's
I don't know.
flashy and
Oh, yeah,
tacky,
I mean,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
kind of similar, yeah.
right. And I'm exactly, because like you look at the stuff I wear and the stuff I make, it to most people would be considered flashy, and it is, but
Yeah.
it's not the same thing that he's talking about in the article either. At least I
Right.
don't think it is.
Well, because I mean, it seems like the things that he's talking about in the article are
it's like taste
two.
list.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're two sides of like extremely basic. Like it's
Yeah.
not like people. I don't see many.
Good.
That's yeah, because I mean, like at least the images he uses, other than the picture of I think Peter at like Pity or whatever, and then the Take Ivy thing. All those images are like fucking goofballs. Like they're not
Right.
They don't like look cool. I mean,
They're not like representative of
Yeah.
everything in between.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, this
It's-
is the it's just slouch v stuff. It's like just I mean, I'm not saying it's like, hey, he stole it from us, but it's a concept that other people that has been talked about, I think, with style for a very very long time.
And he also
it's like it's also just cool versus not cool. That's if you boil it down,
which is
that's
such in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
And of course, when like the way Simon dresses, of course he's gonna think literally everything is either flashy or Fuddy. Because like I said, he plays it extremely safe with everything.
Right.
I mean,
there's that sense of wanting to fit in, right? Like there's that sense of being not. I mean, I don't think he would like the word safe in this, but it's that idea about being able to kind of be style agnostic, where you're not trying to say something over. Like you want. You want the clothes. Okay, if you think that your clothes speak for themselves, you will. I guess you will fall into this kind of idea that I don't want my clothes to be too flashy or fuddy, right? Where. Again, it's a little bit more, maybe there's a little bit more to it than just looking cool or not, but that's like a side effect of it. But it's this idea that you don't, I mean, you just want to avoid looking goofy in two different ways, being too bold or too, but it's weird. Like, I mean, even as it's not the idea. Yeah, it's about taste, but it's also not about like. I mean, the dichotomy is so weird. It's like you don't look too bold, but don't look period. Because I'm like, well, you can be bold and period, and you can be boring and modern at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's Kiyoshi. I mean, do you want to take this way? You want to say what you wrote?
So I think this article has, and a lot of similar articles to this come from the viewpoint of people that are into classic menswear.
Yeah.
And that to me is inherently a viewpoint most of the time of someone that is inherently fuddy. Like they're predisposed toward that direction, right? They're on the fuddy spectrum. And they're like, no, I'm not that dork that's like cosplaying Peaky Blinders.
I promise.
I'm not the person that does the tweed run.
I'm like, different.
I'm like cooler than that, guys.
Yeah.
But I'm also not like Alpha F, Instagram influencer guy either. You're not going to catch me wearing Versace shirts, right? I'm not like that guy in the club. I'm cooler than where I was, but I'm not also cool. It's
Right.
written in that direction. You never see an article like this written from a guy whose instincts were just trashy and flashy. And he's like trying to moderate himself and be like, "Oh, I've left that behind me. I'm no longer gaudy as fuck."
Right.
Right.
Those
right,
guys
right.
do not give two shits. They would never write this kind of essay.
Yeah.
So, even if they dress less gaudy and they were like, "Oh, it's a little out there," they still kind of like it. They don't hide from that side of them. Whereas I feel like when you come from the funny spectrum, you feel a little embarrassed about who you are, and you're trying, but you
confirm.
can't totally leave your roots.
Yeah. Right. Like you're uncomfortable with how you're presenting yourself,
Yeah.
and then you also don't want to change it.
It's kind of like when you're at the dorky kids lunch table in high school. But, one day you got to sit with a moderately cooler group of people.
Just to balance it out.
And you're not trying to kick
That
your
is
right
so-
to the curb. But you're also trying to not lose your achieve social status.
Oh man. Okay. So as a guy, I'm pretty open with you guys. Parasocial relationships and everything. But I
love
definitely
those and encourage them.
Yeah.
We are your best friends, for real.
For real.
So this is really bad. So I am an asshole. I remember back in high school, like once, not high school, like junior high, whatever it is, elementary school. At that sort of stage,
that's a big difference between elementary
there's
school
a
and high
wide-
school.
Let me tell the story, okay? Okay. But there's this idea, like once you move from a certain grade, people stop sitting instead of being like, oh, you're sitting by grades, oh, first grade, second grade, whatever. It starts to become, oh, now it's just cliques, right? As soon as you get to fourth, fifth grade, almost junior high level. And I remember one time I was sitting with the I guess the cooler guys in my class. I wasn't sitting with the two,
You were hanging with the
but-
Flash, not the Fuddy.
Yeah. But it was kind of felt, you I've done that thing where you kind of I didn't talk shit about my friends, but it's you kind of distance yourself a little bit.
I mean,
so
this is a classic sitcom plot line where someone hangs around
absolutely.
the cool kids and then they become too cool for their friends.
I mean,
but in the end of the half hour, it's all wrapped up and they're all friends again.
Yeah. But I think Kiyoshi, I think, is really, really apt with this kind of description here where, it really does encompass a lot of this subsect of classic menswear. And I'm sure Spencer and I have had this kind of similar idea when we had the old Ethan and old Spencer article that we did last summer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of guys who get into classic menswear come to it from both ends of the spectrum. You do have the kind of flashy alpha thing, and like Kiyoshi said, you want to avoid that. And you also got the guys more like Ethan and Spencer who are oh yeah, super period, and then they want to be well, I'm not like that anymore. But yeah, it's a very it's a very classic menswear way of thinking. And unfortunately, and I don't know if we did this a full stream on this, but remember Derek had that thing about how a lot of classic menswear ends up just looking like hashtag menswear after a while. When they try when they reach peak classic menswear, it becomes hashtag menswear. As a general pointer, looks like a dad, looks like dad style. In a big general term here. But yeah, this, I don't know, it's interesting to comment. I'm gonna read some stuff from the chat real quick here. So Dan says people like Eric Kotekson's style is flashy, but not what Simon's talking about. Yeah, I mean, it's a different goal, right? Wearing designer stuff isn't, about reconciling menswear to a flashy or fuddy kind of a thing. It's kind of flash. I wouldn't even say wearing couture or whatever is being flashy for flashy's sake either. It's kind of a more artistic answer, but this kind of goes into, again, what Derek's talking about. When you think of things in classic menswear terms, it poisons you into being as as style agnostic as possible, right? Like there is this whole idea where like, you know, we talk about like the lingua franca, where it's like you can say it and you can wear it anywhere, and you don't want to offend, you don't want to be call too much attention to yourself, and it's just so weird to hear that. And even in the spectrum here, where and I think what's it called? Simon kind of admits to it, where you know making this dichotomy, you know, kind of outlining it, and kind of admitting that most of classic menswear does fall more on the fuddy side of things, like by his own admission. Like most of what they do is kind of old school, right? Like he's still wearing pleats and fuller cut shirts, you know, but it's not super skinny, right? You know, but it's still on that kind of spectrum. And what I always maybe not, you know, hate, kind of a strong word, but what ends up happening is people just don't want to admit like that classic menswear is like an aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like it's just they want it to be
Just how
considered
everyone
agnostic.
dresses.
Yeah, they want to be
They
agnostic.
want it to be like style Switzerland. They want it to be totally neutral.
And they
that's-
want
but
to,
it's
they want to,
not,
but they
yeah.
want to be
Switzerland-
noticed for it.
Switzerland picked a side by not picking a side. That's all I'm going to say.
Some of them are
Oh,
very. It has very pick me energy.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah, this. I mean, and
It's,
I mean,
I'm
I
the
was.
compromise. I'm the compromise.
Yeah,
Everyone
It's,
can agree on cheese as a topping for pizza. It's like, get out of here, man.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're not. Yeah, you guys are so. You're totally right. It's just, you know, men's like menswear just has this issue about wanting to be like, yeah, pick me energy. Such a great way of putting it,
Yeah.
Jason. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to be noticed, but they also want to be noticed, and they want you to also like sometimes praise them, like, "Oh, men just don't dress like this anymore." But then they want to turn around and say, "I think everyone should just be dressing like this, and it
Yeah.
should just be normal." But it's like if it was normal, then no one would be talking to
Well,
you.
because
Yeah.
my thing is, I know that my tastes lean very fuddy. I just don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't think
Right?
about it,
Just
man.
exactly,
Like,
Well, I mean,
and that's what
Yeah,
makes it cool and not
Uh-huh.
fuddy.
it's, you know, yeah, that's exactly it, right? Where they just need to like own up to it, right? And
Right.
it's and the thing is, the pick me energy, I think at you know, on the flashy side, right? Like it's very like, oh, guys should like, look at me, I'm wearing a suit, but it's tight and modern. Like this is how you do it,
Yeah.
guy. You know, like, and, I mean, actually, they technically both kind of do that. Even the funny side's like, you know, oh, look
Yeah,
at me, I'm doing
this
it, but
how
it's
it should
old
be.
school.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
this
what?
is how it should
Well,
be.
something
But-
something I'm kind of curious about. Well, I guess finish your point, but yeah.
Well, oh yeah. I was gonna say, when you dive deeper into this kind of classic menswear agnostic mindset, right? It's the pick me energy becomes very like, oh well, is this really what you want to look like? Is this authentic, or are you just fall? You know what I mean? Like because the whole
That
dye
sounds
work
like our
there-
episode.
yeah, but the whole dye workwear response that was really great that I talked about on my story, like at the beginning of the week or whatever. It was about like, you know, Simon, to his credit, has been branching out a lot, wearing like, you know, Western shirts with chinos and a nice cardigan, and people are like, oh well, you know, it's too costumey, you know, and it's just so like
To wear a cardigan?
no, like with the Western, like I think he
It
had
was like a
bespoke
double
Western
RL
shirt.
like cardigan
Or a
too.
double R, yeah. And I think, yeah, exactly. And, you know, and he's, you know, they were like accusing us of being like, oh, it's just so fake. It doesn't really mesh well, or it doesn't make sense for Simon to do it. And like, you can't make anyone happy, you
No.
know? Like,
This is why you can't
Like-
put yourself in a box and you just let yourself
Yeah.
be whatever, do whatever you want.
Get
and
out of that
then-
damn box.
And there's no way people can say, "Oh, you know, I don't expect that. I expected this, or I expect that, or it doesn't seem like you." It's like if nothing is you, then
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know.
So,
but,
It's hard,
yeah,
though.
okay, go ahead, Spencer.
You like
well,
wait,
no,
wait,
my
wait.
question is, you know, like all the pictures he has illustrating the flashy look. It's like, you know, the picture of like, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo in the, you know, tight jeans and vest, as, you know, this look and the skinny, you know, electric blue suits with the tan suits, as those increasingly go out of fashion, will that be the new Fuddy look? I mean, it's like, what, I don't know, the days of calling
Well,
this
that's-
like the super hip flashy look is like, we're in the end game here, fella.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
the
the
vest
funny-
with the T-shirt is
Yeah.
over a decade old.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not even relevant in the slightest bit.
Right. I mean, it's what's so funny about it, just really quick here, is that like I've been seeing again. I know I reference TikTok a lot. I know that my algorithm is different from everyone else's because that's just how the For You page works.
It's built
But
different.
I love now that what I'm seeing is people calling out the like scoop neck tee with like the fedora and the like the the round brim fedora, sorry, upturned brim fedora, skinny jeans and like Chelsea boots and then the white sneakers. Like I feel like it. I mean, just like it's
The
like
male influencer
what the
look.
kids are calling chuggy, right? It's like or it's that whole energy. And it's kind of, I mean, if you want to call, I mean, chuggy is kind of fuddy, right? It's like, it's out of touch, right? It's like this
Yeah.
idea, it's basic, right? I mean, but but then fuddy isn't basic either, right? It's just, I mean, it's
Well, Fuddy's just the
menswear.
basic of a
Well,
different
okay, so I
kind.
think they can both be basic. I guess there are like basic and non-basic versions of both flashy and fuddy.
Yeah,
but
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just kind of a funny thing, and what Kiyoshi said in our Discord. So, guys, again, patreon.com/styledirection. If you guys want to join in, when we were first talking about this article, he just posted a good comment. We'll get to that in a second. But what this presumes is that if you wear, I mean, maybe not presumes. I mean, maybe I'm reading into Simon's thing a little bit here, but like a singular item becomes flashy or can make your outfit flashy or fuddy. Like it's kind of weird to think about it in this kind of term. I'm thinking about his point here about the loafers. Like, oh, tassel loafers and and like a shapely almond toe. Well, that's too flashy. And I'm like, bro, like, I can't believe people equate like the Aberdeen last to like fucking Magnani.
Yeah, that's funny when
Magnani,
he
like,
says
yeah.
it's like, oh, that's the shoe of a playboy, and I look at that, I'm like, no, it's not. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
It's because of the braiding on the tassels on the side.
yeah.
Playboy doesn't have that kind of
I mean,
cash on hand.
it's so weird, and it's like, dude, have you seen like what old man slippers are? I mean, yeah, the LHS is kind of stubbier, it's rounder, but
It's the goat.
I can't imagine it being, super old manny fuddy. It's just it's so interesting. To kind
Right,
of
so many old men
associate
now
that.
wear those stupid like Skechers shoes where they have like those stupid soles on them.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I think they're Kohan.
On that
You
note,
see that in those
that's
Kohan
all I
shoes?
think about when I see the Sagan strides from Badwin Lounge. Like the fucking like rubber soled Belgians. I feel like that's no offense to them, but I think it's stupid as hell.
Hmm.
I think have you guys seen it? Like it's like
I've seen
I
that,
can't
yeah.
believe
think
we
so.
are in classic menswear and we are literally we're in hybrid shoe territory right now, dude. Like it's like I think there was like what the penny loafer espadrille from
Oh man, yeah.
the one that No Man Walks Alone is stocking. Again, Greg has got great taste. Love him. But dude, like come on, man. Like it's just so weird to see these stuff kind of like having this classic menswear version, even though it's like good taste. Like yeah, the sneakers don't look super chunky or like a dad Reebok or something, but it's still that kind of hybrid, not tasteless, but a little tasteless kind of a thing.
So
It reminds me of
tasteless.
like when like raw denim was like a big like cool new thing, and you started seeing like raw denim wallets and raw denim like back straps
Yeah.
and raw
Yeah.
denim on your shoes as part of a sneaker. It's like no one asked for this, but it's trendy
No.
and they made it. Like
Remember when everything was made of duct tape for a while?
Oh god.
Oh my god, duct tape wallets, dude.
Duct tape prom dresses.
Oh Jesus.
I've
I
never heard
remember
that.
that. Yeah, it was
Were you guys not around? Were you not?
I don't remember
born?
the duct tape. I mean, we're like the same age. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me look this up.
Okay. Well, I mean, in rural Massachusetts, like there was a
Okay.
huge thing where people would make like duct tape like prom dresses because essentially what it boiled down to was that you were poor,
Okay.
and you don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
So it was this whole
Handyman's
crazy
secret weapon.
elaborate thing of like, I'm gonna make it out of duct tape, you know.
I am
I'm
seeing
not like
others duct tape
girls.
tuxedos too. I mean, hey,
Exactly.
gotta say these people get creative with them. So
And they're always paired with a pair of Converse high tops,
classic.
classics.
But there you go. Are
You know what
duct tape dresses fuddy or flashy?
Yeah, leave a comment here.
Um,
Well, are you guys hearing Yammy or? So I'm looking at the comments, the permanent style thing, and again, guys.
Oh, the
if you have
comments are
anything-
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys have any stuff, please feel free to talk into our Discord, put it in live, or if you guys are in the chat here, put it in here. We'll shout it out. But this is crazy. Where a guy's like, "Hey man, I don't know if tassels are racy," and I'm like, "What are you?"
That's crazy. This reminds me
What is
of
it?
like my favorite customer story. Well, not my favorite,
Yeah.
but like one of my favorites at Men's Warehouse was when a guy came up and he was looking for ties and he said like, I have pretty conservative style. And so I was like, okay. And so I grabbed him a red and blue striped tie and he said, I could never wear something flashy like that. I'm like, what?
Bro. Oh my god.
You're
dude.
like, okay, here's a solid navy. That's
Yeah.
too much.
I know that's what he wanted. He's like, do you have the like black or navy? And I'm like, yeah, here you go. There, like take them.
Yeah,
The
it's just
solid, the
wild.
solid like navy tie, especially when it's like just like the standard kind of silk that like
Isn't
twill
that
kind of
crazy?
thing.
I mean,
It just doesn't
I can-
seem right. Feels wrong.
it's I wish like I don't know what this is because this is kind of something. Well, let me do my example first. It's like when people are like, "Oh, black knit tie. Oh, that's crazy. That's so crazy. It's so hipster, man. I can't wear that." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like I get it. Maybe like the square end is like what it like. It might be ruining it for some people, but like I wish maybe grenadine ties were more common. So like just wear this buy like the regular tie. It's a grenadine. It's kind of the same idea as a black knit tie, but maybe a little bit more elevated. Like I haven't seen some. I mean, I wish I had it in person when I worked like on the floor. I would have been like, "Hey, try this," and I would be. If someone said, "Whoa, that's crazy! I can't wear that," I would slap them. Like
Wow.
if that happened. I mean, I don't know. It hasn't happened, but yeah, it's crazy. This guy's. I mean, like I said, I took an attorney to decide whether or not tassels were a bit racy for me.
I think so. I think the thing with
you're not
this,
showing nipple like the tassel loafer.
So
Saying it's
okay.
racy.
So I guess when I'm putting together outfits, I will consider if the pieces all together look too old man. But it's like I never consider it with like individual pieces like these people are doing. Like
Yeah.
when I'm buying a shirt, I never think, is this one shirt too old man? Because I know depending on how you style it, it can look cool. It's like
Yeah.
you just gotta think, people.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too, right? You look at, nothing against the permanent style readers.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, again,
but I'm
absolutely
sure
not.
there's a
I
lot
don't
of
be
too
mean.
much thought going into it, right? They think too much about the outfits,
Yeah.
and which inherently tends to make them, either really boring or like fuddy, because they've put too much. They're thinking about too much. I'm like me personally. I'm not an outfit planner. I like wake up and when I get dressed, I just pull stuff out of my closet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, in defense of permanent style and its readers, I am someone. I mean, the funny thing, right, is that these guys are doing this, and then when I had my guest feature on permanent style, people are like, this Ethan guy thinks too much, and I'm like, really? Like me?
You're like, my
I mean,
dude.
and the thing is, I mean, I'm like, to me, it's like, yeah, of course, but I think that I think about this as much as Simon does, or as much as you guys do, just in a different way of thinking, right? But yeah, it's just really interesting. I want to. There's some other comments here. Matt, do you have any thoughts about flashing first? Yeah, I know. I mean, you could have. Feel free to jump
Not
in
really
anytime
any
here.
room to jump in edgewise, but hi guys. So I think that even today I saw like some guy who was like older and he's wearing like a navy blazer and like white pants, and it's like by any standard sartorially, oh, that's a casual outfit, but it didn't. It looked old and fuddy and all that stuff, and just like so I think it's subjective. Maybe that's him rebelling or him standing out, but I think the only thing people can have on me for my style is because I don't wear too much, stuffy stuff or tailoring. The only thing people have on me is that I wear high rise pants. So like
And
I
you
try to
follow
balance.
people around.
I do. I have a knife that does it really good. I am basically really useful in the autumnal season. But that's the only thing people have on me is a rise. So I like to balance that out. Like if I had high rise shorts on today, I had some sneakers and then just sort of like a tighter shirt, but it's not like a button down like whatever they had on the thing, but just like a casual striped shirt, long sleeve. So I always try to kind of balance these two acts so that if you look at me on the whole, it's still like it's harder to categorize and just kind of works. So yeah, because that is something you have to be conscious of. Just like, am I dressing too sartorially, or am I just being too like sexualized in dressing? So you have to find a balance, I think. Or you're doomed. Damn it.
You're doomed.
That idea
going to hell.
Yes.
of what do you call it? When you make that decision, right? And kind of embracing it. I'm looking at another comment here, which says, as someone who commissioned mid-grade flannels, high rise, I find myself slightly defensive, kind of funny, but I think his choice makes sense. And Simon actually responded saying, well, as long as you're aware of what you're looking like, as Ivan put here too, the best way to look fuddy is when you look fuddy and you embrace it. I mean, that's kind of what it is. Like,
right. Like if you want to do like a navy blazer, gray flannel, like are there ways you could like avoid the white button down with the rep stripe tie? You can just get rid of that and like, I don't know, do like a mock neck or something like that. Like use some of these combinations, but then subvert it a little bit,
right,
not go
exactly.
fully against the wall.
There's a comment here also about, and we can talk about this too, about age or maybe like the stage of life where you're at. This guy Tommy in a permanent style comment says, age is a big factor. When we're younger, clothes are often more costumey when we figure out our own style and jostle for a position in the world. The guy says he wore all sorts of flashy, attention-grabbing clothes, electric blue 3-piece 70s Burton suit. That seems cool, but then he does say, I put it with pointy alligator loafers and ripped jeans
there it is.
ripped jeans with powder blue pennies and women's t-shirts in tiny sizes. I mean, yeah, it seems kind of interesting, very 70s. And then at the other end of the spectrum, baggy combat trousers, hoodies, skate shoes, etc. Now he wants to look elegant, understated, and appropriate to surroundings and occasion. And the funny, when I'm reading this, the funny thing here is that when it's like, oh yeah, now like you've reached the end game, and I'm not saying that he does this, but I think this is a common thing with the classic menswear mindset, is that you think that once you go from being costumey to being like super appropriate, you think that's the end game, but in reality, that's just step 2, right? Once you start being appropriate, then in the third step, it's like, oh, nothing matters, and I can wear whatever the fuck I want, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Did anyone think that they would get like what they like? We're dressing now in our peak or whatever, but like as they get older, I have to be like professoriate or something like that. But then I see the Drake's photo shoots where it's like, they got old models, but they still dress in that kind of style we all love. So it's like, no, I'm just gonna keep wearing this. It doesn't matter because it is like rooted in the classical stuff. It will just look good. You could still wear shorts. You could still do all this stuff without it looking, without just defaulting to like a professoriate look. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's one of those things where you have to look at classic menswear as an overall vibe and aesthetic. It is not like it is not just about being.
It's not a lookbook.
It's not.
No,
yeah, it's not. It's not a
true.
very. It's a classic menswear is not a list of things that are only appropriate for it. Like it's not limited to just.
It's not just about making a good outfit.
Yeah, it's the classic menswear, at least to us, me and Spencer, and probably the rest of it. It's like there's a lot of pieces that fall into it. Like we're gonna get into this in the future episode about how we define these terms, but like that's why we think down jackets, Western shirts are all classic menswear. They're all classic pieces of men's clothing, and looking at it that way,
maybe they'd fall
gives
into
you a lot of leeway.
Americana, but still classic.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think what's happening here, right? Like you want to look elegant, understated, and then you put things into that box, right? Like, oh yeah, well that's why like a blazer works there. You can't really wear anything else, and then you realize that anything outside of that is flashy or fuddy, right? Like, that's when you start thinking about things a little too specifically. And someone in the comments did say this permanent styles essay is very similar to my essay about slouchy versus stuffy. So shout out Fred for that.
Did you say
And
Fred?
I think. I
Yes,
wonder who
Fred
it was.
Casberry, shout you out.
Yeah, yeah, it could be. Oh wait, it says Fred E. Oh my God,
Oh,
Red Entertainment
but, no, it's
Castleberry?
like
Fred, his
that.
twin brother.
Yeah.
One of the good things about having a very generic or very open-ended terms, and Flash and Fuddy is still kind of open-ended. It's to credit to Simon for that one. But like the slouchy versus stuffy, it has more to do with attitude than the specific clothes that you're wearing. As opposed to Flashy and Fuddy, where a lot of this kind of hinges on the idea that the piece
to be deleted.
themselves are the piece of clothing is inherently flashy or fuddy. Like the tassel loafers are flashy, but the penny loafers are fuddy, as opposed to like, does the whole outfit look flashy or fuddy?
Right.
I still
there's-
think it's about overall aesthetics, frankly. Like, you could subvert, you could have, like, one bold piece, but, like, as long as the rest of your outfit isn't bold pieces, or, like, you can find maybe more fuddy ways to balance it out. So I still think the overall vibes are king in this, and for the flashy versus fuddy. And don't be ridiculous. Like, you have, like, I think I saw one picture, there's, like, a green, just tight button-up shirt or something like that. It's like, okay, you have to make it somewhat workable, but I still, I think vibes are king.
Yeah, Vibe King.
Mhm.
This is called Vibe.
This is called
Self-awareness helps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, like, okay, so here's a good example here. It's from a guy named Carol. The name sounds familiar. I don't know if there's a
Hi,
lot
Carol.
of guys
Carol
on the blog
Baskin.
named Carol.
Carol Baskin? Oh my god.
But he says
Remember that
here,
from last year.
Carol in the permanent style article, the comment section says he had the same problem trying to make a yellow short sleeve shirt work. He says denim was an obvious choice, but it was too hot. Gray high twist would work, but he doesn't have any. High waisted cream linens are great, but a full pale linen might be too much. Chinos look ivy, but not in a good way. And in the end, he wore it just untucked with shorts.
Yeah.
It sounds like way too much thought.
And he says, I'd rather look like he got lost on his way to the beach than a Harvard student during a heat wave.
I mean, you could say that that's too much thought, but then this is also kind of like sometimes how I get dressed in the morning.
I mean, the thing is,
it's like kind of like split second decisions where I just grab a bunch of things out of my closet and I'm say, okay, I'm gonna try like this same shirt on with 3 different pants, and then you just kind of decide in the moment, what
I can
feels
get
best.
behind that.
I very much didn't want to wear khaki shorts today, and so I tried to go. These gray ones work. It's like, no, I really need the contrast of the shirt with the khaki. So like, fuck it, I'll wear the khaki shorts. So you gotta try some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, so Brian just commented here. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah, he says here, you can peacock a bit when you're young. The point is to have fun and attract opposite sex. Or desired sex, hey, as you get older, your taste becomes more subdued, and there are ways to stop it from looking fuddy. Exhibit A, Noboru Kakuda.
All sex is desired sex.
So,
Hi, Brian.
I mean,
Yes.
I definitely, I get what you're saying, Brian. The thing is, right? Like, we think that classic menswear is something that is immune to people's perspectives. By that I mean from normies, right? And it's like this is where that whole lingua franca the characterization of menswear for that is actually a bad thing, because the idea that menswear, like once you start getting toned down, you wear like an open collar shirt with like trousers, chinos, whatever, you wear with a military jacket, you think that you're being quite inoffensive, but you still look funny to everybody else.
Right.
Like that's what ends up happening. Like we can't kid ourselves in that classic menswear is suddenly going to be inoffensive and subdued. I mean, it's again, you get sucked into that whole classic menswear mentality of like, well, you don't want to be alpha M hashtag menswear influencer core whatever, but you also don't want to be like a Peaky Blinders guy. But the thing is, to the rest of the world, you still look like the suit guy.
Listen,
Yeah.
we're all just the
You know?
Joker to everybody.
And
Right.
yeah,
Bunch
and
of
so
clowns.
it's
I'm the
one of those
Joker,
things
baby.
where if
I
we
am the
want
Joker.
to start thinking
the
about
Joker.
things in terms of whether or not something is funny, it's like, well, it goes into what I talked about with Stuffy versus Slouchy with the rooms that you're in, right? Where you might not look funny or flashy to guys at the armory, but at the guy at the bar, it might happen.
I feel like a lot of people
Guy
don't
at the
let.
bar is gonna go. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, what do they do, Jason?
I was gonna say the guy at the bar. You think you're better than me?
Yeah, punk. And then they break the bottle, and then a fucking bar fight comes out. No,
Yeah,
but
we
I
got the- we
think
got
a
the
lot of
Queen
people.
England here.
Matt King George. A lot of people don't let the outside perception influence a lot of their personal styles, but I really, I do a bit. I do, frankly, like being where I am now. I acknowledge their take on things and say, okay,
No, I think
maybe
that's fair. You want to.
I like the idea of wearing casual Ivy tailoring and just get to wear all this shit and all that. But it's like I also acknowledge that maybe I could be a bit more fluid, but still find that what it means to me, as Aretha once said. And I think I'd have found a good way to do both of those things. So I don't get. It's more of a head turn rather than he's wearing a suit.
I mean, that's the whole. I mean, that's kind of what we did with Stuffy versus Slouchy, because that's an overall attitude thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that, because initially I had that debate with Aldous about it, and it's not that we're avoiding people or completely disregarding it. It's more so that if they think that, we want to challenge their expectation of it, right?
Yeah.
And so
I think I pick my battles like that. I fight for rise,
Yeah.
so I always do high rise, but I give with some other things, and just like, what do you choose?
Right,
You-
because it's
you'd
like,
say, this
you
can
can
work.
wear. Yeah, it's like like when you're like, it's not that high rise is Fuddy versus flashy, but it's like, did you wear jeans to the bar or did you wear cream flannels to the bar? It's like
Right,
that's the better way of thinking about it. And even then, I mean,
Did you
I
wear
could say
white linens or white denim? Even that.
Yeah, exactly. And even and there are different ways to kind of approach it. And even then, you could probably still wear cream flannels to the bar if you just fucking
Own
slash
it.
around about it, right? Like, yeah, you own it,
Have
right?
Like a
I
Slash T-shirt on.
Yeah, you have to.
I mean, there's a picture. I think there's a
Win.
picture of Ethan Newton wearing like cream high-waisted pants with like a fucking Led Zeppelin shirt or something. And I feel like
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. That extreme. Then it doesn't matter what the fuck you're wearing because it's like, okay, they're just pants at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's obviously, and a lot of the Fuddy people, right? They have no context, right? They don't wearing like it's like a 3-piece. If you're going to the bar with like your friends, it's inappropriate. Whether or not you're the suit guy, it's like, okay, it's still a little inappropriate. Dress for the occasion, or dress. Obviously, insert yourself. Insert the way you dress into your event, but like, yeah,
Have some
you're
consideration.
not going to go to the beach in a full suit because you're the suit guy.
Maybe
Yeah.
skip the trench coat at the parent-teacher conference. Just like little details.
I was that guy.
I was gonna say, Ivan, you're not alone, because at my 24th birthday, we've seen Hal, and Hal's a great friend of mine. We've hung out a lot of times. Over
And he did wear the suit at the beach.
Yeah, I mean, okay. To
What?
his credit, he did. He
said that he thought we were going to be hanging out like at the pier.
At the pier.
He wore his
And
linen, of
Because
course.
of
It's not
course,
insane.
Huntington Beach, the beach that we went to, has a famous pier. But there's not really much to do on there other than look at kites or go to the restaurant at the end of the pier. So,
which is a Ruby's Diner.
it's now Ruby's is closed
Ruby's
now.
Ruby
It's now
Tuesday?
just a seafood
Yeah.
place.
Only
Unfortunately.
Tuesdays.
Yeah,
yeah.
so so when we had we had like a tent, we had like pizza, and like we were talking about before the stream, and I was wearing just swim shorts and my terry cloth shirt. Spencer had his like Western hat and like a denim short coat over like shorts, like whatever, sport shirt, whatever, and he came wearing a Madras jacket, like an OCBD, and then like chinos, which I think, again, hilarious. I mean, he wasn't like he's not a fancy guy. It just was like, oh yeah, he should have like, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask if we were like going to be on the beach or at the pier. And I'm like, don't worry about it, man. Just roll up your Cheetos, wade in the water with us, whatever. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
What is
Yeah.
the most inappropriate you've dressed for something like that? Like you did not take the hint and you just went the complete other way.
Like
and it is the worst.
every event in high school.
Oh
Yeah.
no! Oh,
Any
no.
time
that was
you
a
wore a
suit guy in
boater.
high school.
Yeah.
Any but
There's a pic.
no one
Spencer
sure
at prom.
It's funny because last year I went to the beach, and this is unrelated to the pic I just sent in the Discord.
Oh, it's
Last-
another one. Great.
Last year I went to
clarity, yeah, for clarity, first of all, Ivan is on the side of the beach, where the path is, and he's wearing a
navy
like,
jacket with cream
navy
flannels.
jacket.
Again,
And I'm not-
at one
again,
time
I'm
in
not-
history, would be considered great beachwear.
So-
He's a recovering.
He's
Last
also,
year-
he's also
Peaky
got
Blinders.
a walking stick. I mean, I don't want to call you out, Ivan, but
No, call me out. I'm not that
All right,
guy
great.
anymore.
You look.
yeah,
I look like
thankfully,
shit, and I know it.
Bag of chips.
But no,
Last
the
year-
thing is, it's not. Sorry again. I just want to say you don't look like shit. It's just the context is what's
appropriate,
wrong.
right.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh, no,
the
like,
outfit is technically good.
No, like for that event, I specifically asked to go to the beach to wear that outfit because
Oh,
I wanted
boy,
to
oh,
be
boy.
Birdie Booster.
Yeah, I was trying to
Oh,
save you,
man.
but alright.
Okay.
You
There
You
we
didn't
go.
have to admit to that.
you
dude.
didn't have to- Okay, go on.
Yeah.
So last year
this
I
other
went to
instance.
last year I went to the beach with my family, and all I wore was literally a linen button-down shirt and my bathing shorts. And even then, like, my sister was like giving me slack for wearing a button-down, which
Fine.
Unfortunate.
So
Unfortunate slack.
it was technically like wasn't. Yeah, I guess it was funny. What I'm trying to say is, like, if a normie thinks you look bad, it's probably because you do look bad
Not
Well, shit.
No, well, yeah.
in certain
that's a very-
contexts.
the caveat, right? I mean, that's why it's one of those things where when I look at my style and the clothing I have, I love to like just, I guess, subvert is strong. Maybe like be to challenge people, I guess, is a good way of putting it. Because
Sure.
it's like it's not just about like it's taking that idea that menswear's had for a while, or menswear were like, oh, I'm gonna wear shoes without socks, or I'm gonna wear sneakers with a trouser or something. It's like that, but expanded. And you could say maybe it's too much for some people or not, but like wearing military chinos with a blazer, that's kind of the same energy.
Did you serve though?
Okay, so Spencer, give Ethan a casual hangout, and then we'll see what he does to subvert it. So
There
just
we
pick
go.
any sort of outing.
Well, I was gonna say, so it's like when people.
Funeral.
Here's a
Perfect.
here's a
Oh,
really
thank you very
great-
much.
No, that was-
Yeah,
Thanks,
MJ.
MJ. Yeah, producer MJ,
Producer,
subscribing to us.
Doer.
So he example is every time I post a picture of me at the pool, I get one comment, usually whether it's in the Asian American Discord that I'm in, Psy, or it's on Instagram or on Facebook, whatever. But I wear a terry cloth shirt, right? And everyone goes like, "What the hell? You're wearing a shirt to the pool? Like, what's wrong
my
with you?" And I
God.
go, but then I say, "It's made out of towel fabric," and they're like, "Oh shit, that's actually a
Yeah.
good idea." And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like,
I'm just
See?
really
Yeah,
self-conscious.
idiot.
I'm
Thanks for
not
that.
not stupid, right? I mean, it's
I'm
not-
dry at
I'm
all
not-
times.
You think I'm a dummy, but I'm not.
Dumbass.
I mean, but it's so true, right? Where
Yeah.
it's it's one of those things that I've kind of hinted at, and I don't know if this is going to be a future stream topic because we're kind of getting into it now. But like, we often think of things as written down on paper, right? Where like someone goes like, especially like they say like, oh, wide leg trousers are so crazy, and then yet we see guys in Dickies, easy pants wearing it all the time, and it's like what the fuck you guys are talking about? It's like, and people will look at it and go, well, that's not too wide. I'm like, yeah, because they have they're draped, they have they hang cleanly or whatever, and it's like you just kind of think about things on paper as being, flash or fuddy, right? You think like you can't fathom it until you see it done in front of you. And that's, I think, what the whole issue with hashtag menswear or classic menswear, this mindset, is because everything is kind of talked about in these weird, like, hypothetical terms. And we know famously I hate hypotheticals. Because it's like, one early example is, oh, what happens if you're invited to a party and there is no dress code? What do you wear? It's
I
like,
don't go.
fucking ask the host.
I need to
dude.
be
Like,
told
Yeah.
what to wear.
It's
like
fine. You'll
it's
be-
fine,
you'll
you
be
know,
okay.
and, you know, yeah, and it's like assuming, oh, if you wear a tie, you're stuck. Like, fucking take off the tie, like just when
Right.
you get there,
Right,
you
as if
know?
a tie's
Off
not
your shirt.
removable. As if your clothes aren't removable. Like,
What am I gonna do
take
with all
off the
this
jacket when
fabric?
you get there, you know, roll
Should
up
I
the
eat it?
sleeves, right? It's like so, like it's just so wild, you
it's
know.
like, oh, I
Ax-
brought my 4-piece suit. Maybe just take a couple pieces off them when you get there. You
Yeah,
find
It's
that
attached to me
conformable.
surgically.
Yeah, like-
Axel in our Discord has a good point. You probably know the person who's hosting, and you know what they usually wear. This is what I talk about, like where the gut will tell you, right? And I think again here,
right, have social
the
awareness.
the comments
Mhm.
on the permanent style
Common
thing
sense.
again. This is not a reflection of Simon. I think this is it's a good add-on to our whole
Yeah.
Slouchy versus Stuffy dichotomy here. But a lot of these comments are kind of about like specific pieces, right? Like, oh, chinos are too Ivy or these loafers or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
like in reality, it's like we're kind of putting these monikers onto specific pieces that in reality like are pretty fine. Like classic menswear, like the definition of flash within our niche's niche, it's not flashy at all. You know, it's crazy. Like, you know, it's like when we like, you know, Spencer, like, you know, oh yeah, let's wear like a, and I don't think that guy was a hashtag menswear enthusiast, but it's like not being able to wear a rep stripe tie
Yeah.
and seeing that
Right.
as flashy is
Nutso
fucking,
stuff, man.
it's crazy.
You know, the
crazy as hell.
tone of when people say like, "Oh, well, you wouldn't wear this with this," reminds me of those anti-piracy commercials. Like, you wouldn't download a car, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would you?
and you're like,
Like-
yeah, sure, I would.
You're like, if I could download a car and it would be out, yeah, I would. That's a stupid
Absolutely.
question.
Yeah.
But like the tone, they're like, well, you wouldn't wear this brown shoe with blue.
I didn't realize
anything,
that's
right?
where that
You're like,
meme came from. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
it's a little too
I see.
flashy.
I'm seeing another
brown
comment here
shoes.
from a guy named
Yeah.
Lewis.
Lewis.
Named Lewis.
Yeah, he says here, this
Lewis
is
with a
really
D.
great. This is a good. This
Lewis
is a point.
Skywalker.
It's
The Lewis.
important. It's useful to keep in mind that the midpoint between the two extremes is often seen as just boring, and I
That is
think that's
useful.
great. That's really good. That's a really great point. I think we said that earlier with like he was like a dad, right? But he says combining staples with something flashier or more traditional and it can work well. Like you can wear a plain OCBD and blue jeans with like a flight jacket without looking too flashy, or a gun club tweed check jacket without looking too stuffy. Hey, he says stuffy. I wonder if he reads the blog.
Huh.
Hey, this could be
He's
this could be
congested.
Lewis. Is this Tash and Turnips? This could be him
Oh my
too.
god.
That's right.
Or Louis
But-
C.K.
It
But
could
the
be
funny
Or
thing
Lewis.
here
Louis
is that
Farrakhan.
you know, for every kind of idea, we have an art, we have an essay and podcast episode that's out now. We'll discuss it next Sunday about corporate culture. But he even says here that what's it called? He got several comments for wearing LHS loafers with no
More
socks.
than 4.
Even though no one bats an eyelid when someone wears Birkenstocks and white socks, and that's kind of interesting, right? Like we do, Spencer and I do talk about how, you know, we think that no one will care, right? But I also wonder if, like, because of the way classic menswear is and the history behind it, it's unfairly put on this pedestal where like no one cares about socks and sandals because like fucking everyone does that, right? Like lazy people, grandpas, whatever.
Well, like other
But, right?
classic menswear people feel the need to call it out because they're all pick-me's.
We write the rules we rebel
What I'm
against.
saying, but what I'm saying
It's
is
a real
the fact
problem.
that, like, you know, where like a guy wearing like baggy dress pants with shoes is like seen as like okay, right? But
Yeah,
then
like
you
golf
wear,
attire. Like you have to wear a polo and whatever, but it could be like a shitty baggy ass polo. But God forbid you wear something that actually fits you, but doesn't meet a golf dress
well,
code.
it's like
that kind
it's
of
like
shit.
well, yeah, it's well. What my analogy is like, you know, when it comes to quote the correct way of doing it, it's seen as like crazy sometimes, right? Where like, you know, like yeah, no one bats an eye about like a I don't know, wearing like a mismatching like, you know, black and different shades of black,
Black and
jacket on
navy.
trousers or whatever, because it's like whatever, like at an office, right? Like, you know, just like a regular Joe Schmo. But then you wear like tassel loafers with like a trouser, and people are like, all right, Mr. Fancy Guy. It's like, what? Like that's crazy.
It's like
But
that the Joker
it-
meme.
it's
No one bats an eye.
No one bats an eye.
Yeah.
What is this line?
But
I don't even
it-
remember.
I don't know.
I-
The
say
classic
poop cock.
menswear is going its own Joker mode.
right, because
Yeah,
it's like
we're all going
it's like one of those
Joker
things
mode.
where classic menswear in general is in this weird area where even when it's like super agnostic, like we said earlier, it is pointing to a specific aesthetic, and that ends up becoming still fuddy. Like when people go, like, "Oh, you're wearing pleats," like even if it's a razor sharp crease or whatever, people go, "Oh, you're Mr. Old Man wearing pleats," or you wear like a fucking, I don't know,
Again,
like
I need extra
like a
space
very-
for my massive
like a-
dong.
like a toned down gun check and go, all right, flashy guy. It's like it's crazy. Like classic menswear can't win, and
So
I
what
guess
your mom
the,
said
the,
last
the
night.
solution, right? The solution is for
Your mom
is
loves
for
these
people
pleats.
to just realize that menswear is always going to be like that, and just do it anyway, right? Just kind
Do
of
it
just
anyway.
be
Just
like,
fucking do
lean-
whatever you want.
lean
Dress
into it.
however you want.
Yeah, when
Unless, of course, it's not in a suit and tie. Then that's the problem. That's the downfall of society.
Right.
I think
right there.
people who are into one specific aesthetic
I've
are
heard
the
that.
ones who are the ones who are the most buddy. Like you look at the guys who are with the Ivy Style purists on ivystyle.com, like they're clearly trying to copy something that they're not, and they're very like unaware of it, and they look buddy doing it.
right.
If the Ivy people that you admire knew about your strictness, they would beat you up. They'd
Right.
throw you to the curb and
Yeah,
say,
well.
"You're not cool. Look at you, stodgy
it's like-
old
But
guys."
I mean, it's the point. It's like he makes a good point of like, it's like Ivy Style was just like them doing whatever they wanted, and now there's rules for it. It's like that's what.
I mean, that's just how
structure.
the menswear. Yeah, that's how the menswear mind
They
operates.
want the
right? There
formula
has-
because they can't
Yeah.
create anything mentally on their own. So
I
they have to
can't think.
hold-
I have no
I don't-
imagination.
well,
Tell me
okay.
what
Well,
to do.
first, as probably one of the guys here who wears a tie more than anybody. Maybe not as much as Ivan. Or maybe me and Ivan are kind of almost
Neck and
we're
neck.
tied.
Tie to
Hey,
tie.
neck and neck. That's
But-
where your tie goes.
But it's
We're neck
but
and
it's like
Nice.
it's that I don't know if it's about like lack of creativity. It's more so the thing that Axel is writing here about. There's insecurity about being judged by your surroundings, right? There's this idea that and it's not just
that
a
inhibits the
menswear-
creativity.
right? But I would say it's not a uniquely menswear thing, right? Because we've heard that oft repeated thing about dating where in the first 20 seconds a person has decided whether or not they're going to fuck you or whether or not they're going to talk to you or whatever.
I
And
don't
it's not
think that's
and
true.
it's not true to an extent, right? But it's that idea that people that you are constantly being judged, and and the idea
I mean,
that
by the
we
Lord,
have
of course.
the-
Of course.
and not to pull a Berkeley Breed thing here, but like the idea that when you talk about Flash versus Fuddy, or even myself when I talk about Slouch versus Slouchy, we're still kind of upholding that idea that people are going to judge you. I think the ideal world is where where people
Gaslight,
don't.
gatekeeping, girl
don't-
boss.
I don't think it's about whether or not, how should I put this? Well, I was gonna say David puts it on the neck on the head, nail on the head here.
Neck on the head, man.
Push the neck on the tie.
It's a self-esteem issue. Yeah, it's being very cognizant because I feel like here's it was. I think they use the term "judged" based on what you wear is kind of a strong term. I don't know if you're being judged. I think people notice you. Like I don't think you can
That's shooty.
escape that.
You don't judge
right?
a book by its
But-
cover.
That is very true.
But the idea that you are being judged implies that these people has an effect on you, right?
And it
Like
typically means they have it sounds like they always have a malicious intent, right? They're judging you because they want to
I'm not saying people don't care about your clothes, but no one will care more about your clothes than you do.
Hey, think
That's-
about that.
no one
Within
cares about your
context.
clothes.
Mhm.
Only other insecure men care about your clothes.
Right.
because I mean
Why
there
didn't I
are
do that?
there are a couple of comments in here that are kind of projecting or at least kind of fighting back on that idea about being judged, because they say like, well, these are good guidelines, but like sometimes the idea is your outfit good, which could be flashy or fuddy, right? As we said earlier, like you could still be period and still feel like cool as hell, right? I mean, that's kind of the way to do it. Um, here's a good comment here. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but like the guy pushes back saying a lot more going on here than just being flash or funny. Some of it comes down to why you are dressing. Are you dressing to get noticed? Are you getting laid? Are you trying to look competent and
Always getting
have
laid.
some authority? And I think as much as we want to fight back on on like those specific reasons of dressing, the idea about why you're dressing is still important, right? It's still there. I mean, I'm not going to say we don't have an agenda, right? I mean, there's that small part that you still want to look cool, and
Always
that's
look cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of the biggest. That's kind of the bigger thing, right? We kind of talked about rule of cool and how in that we still don't know. It doesn't matter what the definition of
But
cool
I mean,
is.
doesn't even if you're dressing to look cool to others, it's always it never comes out as good as if you're dressing to feel cool for yourself.
Yeah, that's the cool thing, quote unquote. Not trying to look. Take the try out. It's cool.
Right.
You can't be cool if you want to.
Don't be the try guys. Just be the guys.
Don't be the
be
try
the guys.
Just live like
I'm
Larry.
always telling people not to be the try guys.
But yeah, if you
for multiple reasons.
Yeah, please don't be the try guys.
Yeah.
They try
Have a
too
trident.
much.
They tried too much.
And got so far.
They tried so hard and got so far. In the end, it didn't even matter.
It truly did not matter.
Here's a crazy comment.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Time for Ethan Wong's crazy comment.
I'm putting my arms up for this one.
Yeah.
Hot takes.
Here we go.
This is from a guy called DA here. I think one of the hidden subtext in this distinction touched upon by Simon and another commenter is the issue of sexuality. It's not everything, but it is something. In this context, now I don't know if I agree. I don't think I agree with this or not. Flash is advertising oneself as being sexually available, or at least aware of and comfortable with one's sexuality, and Fuddy is downplaying your sexuality and sexual availability in the public domain.
I'm in the public domain.
Listen.
Yes.
Anyone can,
you have no royalties coming to you.
Yeah, people can use me in whatever creative works they want. I'm royalty free, baby.
Royalty free, baby.
I will send my lawyers after you if I see myself in any creative works.
Plural. Wow. All right.
How many lawyers do you have?
I got more than you can count, bitch.
My lawyer's gonna beat up your lawyer.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Thanks, Marco. Marco just left.
Okay, bye.
Well,
it's like it's relative. Like I don't know. Like what are like quote unquote flashy pieces you guys have? Because it's like I just like a blue linen shirt. It's like it's all about how you wear it. It's just like these pieces themselves are not great.
It's one of those things though, because flash in this particular instance refers to very slim fit hashtag. I mean, again, peak hashtag menswear. That kind of genre. You know, it's like the like.
Well, none of us were
the Blake Scott, era of it. But then this also seems to also kind of have that whole Eurotrash thing with like alligator driver loafers or something, which doesn't really feel hashtag menswear. It just feels kind of tasteless.
Just tasteless,
tasteless. So it's kind of a weird thing. And like Fuddy is kind of a weird area where like, okay, well, are gray pants Fuddy, or is it gray pants with a full cut pleated Fuddy?
It's not. It's not narrowed down the right amount. It's not focused.
Right, and to self-critique here, I mean, I think that slouch and stuffiness is also very, it's also very general terms here. But
I think those terms are more easily digestible, understandable in the vague sense of them.
Seems the Flash is being hypersexual.
Your essay's longer, Ethan.
When they're stuffy.
Yeah.
Right. That's because it's an attitude thing, right? Because I think you could wear something flashy. The thing is, I don't know if you can be flashy and slouchy, mainly because, I can't imagine wearing something super slim fit and be slouchy. I don't know if that's possible, but you can definitely be fuddy and stuffy.
Yeah. They sometimes go hand in hand.
Yeah, which is kind of fun because
Usually,
I
a Fuddy
mean,
person is stuffy.
which is why Flashy doesn't. I think that Flashy's on a different spectrum than Fuddy, right? I think
Yeah.
Flashy versus boring, right? But then I wouldn't say that but Fuddy is being. I wouldn't say Fuddy is being boring because
Yeah, the opposite of Fuddy is not flashy.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, this is not a critique on Simon because I feel like we're basically doing what Berkeley did to me, where we're trying to find out
Okay, roast him.
the
Roast the
exact
shit out
terms
of him.
here.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying
but
not to roast him. I feel like, yeah, again, I'm not
No,
trying to be.
No, Simon
It's a
has
good
has
article. It's like,
This is good. This is the whole point, right? This is the
Last
idea
time I
behind
roasted
it.
somebody, I got kicked out of Ivy Style. So
You don't want You don't want to get kicked out of.
I don't want to get
Permanent
kicked out of
Style
permanent
next.
style because then all my style becomes impermanent.
Mhm.
Last
You're gonna
time
be
I
constantly
roasted something,
changing.
I ate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start a rival website, impermanent style.
Very good.
Washable marker style.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is a
all
good
duct
comment
tape
here.
prom dresses.
So Simon actually in the comment because someone's saying like this is a interesting article, but I think it's just like we're like our like in to reflect our comment to Bruce Boyer, the guy is saying that Simon might be reading too much into why people are dressing, like we're assuming too much, which is a fair comment, like, just like me with like slouchy versus stuffy. Maybe we could think someone is stuffy when they're actually a super slouchy person, like to their credit, right? And but I also have this assignment here where he goes like, he thanks the commenter for writing it. He goes, my style is certainly not universal, but he does want to make sure his readers know what he thinks looks bad and what he thinks looks good, and I definitely associate with that. Where like I've had conversations with Aldous about my strong use of bad and inherent and ugly or whatever, and it's the same thing with me where I'm like I just want to say it like I think it is, you know. But yeah, it's Flash and Fuddy. It's just a good compliment to slouch and stuffiness. That kind of focuses more on the connotations of the actual clothing, um, as opposed to the attitude of how you wear it. Any more? I mean, I wish Marco wasn't gone because I feel like he embodies like the very flashy end of the spectrum with clothing, not in the classic menswear way, but kind of in the same as we talked about Eric earlier at the beginning of this whole topic. But I would say that even though Marco is flashy, it doesn't come across as it's not like Marco doesn't wear tight clothing, right? So it's not in that same vein.
Now, are you just speaking about tailoring and like button-ups, or do you mean other things?
I guess Simon technically is only referring to forms of tailoring.
I feel like that
Marco.
side of things is limiting if we only look at it like that, because it's like we can open things up a little bit. But if we're just being very strident, then yeah, we don't like that. We don't like skinny suits or like sausagey shirts. So it's like the end, you can't go very far. But like like I use the word knitwear, but like a long sleeve or like a t-shirt, I think that of course can be like a slim fit, and that it can help balance out high-rise pants or like other things that could be stuffy. So I think it's just not being as shoehorned in. I think that can open things up a little bit in this debate between the two. But otherwise, we just don't. It's not as accessible because we just don't choose those pieces or those types of flashy pieces.
Right. I mean, that's something I was just reading through a comment right now is this idealized menswear space that these people seem to occupy. And again, we're not in the same income level, very clearly. We're in a decidedly younger demographic than Simon and his readers. But it's like this. So let me read the comment here. If he wore a bespoke DB chalkstripe suit, a fedora, trench coat, and an umbrella, he would look like he came out of a 1940s themed mob movie. Even if all the individual items fit properly and of the highest quality, it would be too Fuddy. Equally so, if I were to wear a polo shirt with a sweater over my back, draped around my neck, chest, with white jeans and tassel over as a tote bag, I would look like a country club caricature. It would be too flash.
Right.
But then again, context and association are also factors. But the first outfit I described wouldn't look out of place if I was middle-aged working in a conservative office, while the second outfit would be fine in an actual country club. The thing is, like, the comment's not saying this, but I always wonder, like, is this really the lie? Like, how these people live? Like, I don't really think I would be able to go to a country club. You know, like the idea about looking out of place is a very interesting mindset because, and maybe this is a generational thing now, right? Where like people kind of feel like they are stuck in a predetermined path, right? Like when you get to a certain age, you're going to go to a country club, you're going to go to the golf club, you're going to be at a conservative office. But then as a guy who's younger, I can't imagine being in that place. You know, this also could be that because I live in Southern California, you know, so there's not really much of that happening in general. I can't imagine any office in California that's not like in the financial district, you know, that you would have to wear a suit or a tie in, you know, like I can't imagine anything like that. So
yeah, some people, like, even if they don't do that sort of corporate look, I'm sure there are contexts where it's like, okay, you have to like sort of like look like, okay, pretty straightforward, you know, just like, okay, time to get everything together, be passable, you know, don't go too crazy wearing madras and all that stuff. You kind of have to have a sensible fit. But where can we push those lines, etc.? I'm sure you get into that with corporate stuff, but yeah, those aren't as maybe often, but I'm sure that happens sometimes where it's like, okay, what's the balance here?
Yeah, that balance is hard to kind of achieve, especially if you're looking at it very formulaically, right? Like as we were talking about earlier. You know, I see a comment here of a guy named Rich. He says, I spend an awful lot of time trying to make it look like I've spent no time thinking about an outfit.
And that's funny.
Like it's funny, yeah. I even says it's Fuddy. Even if your outfit isn't Fuddy, like you could spend a lot of time thinking about like the right combination of t-shirt and jeans to make it look so easy, right? And yeah, think about the bonus episode. But there's that idea, right, where like the more I kind of think about this is that I don't think that I want to look like I didn't think about my outfit. I want it to look like I thought a lot about it, but I don't care what happens after I put it on. I think we've talked about that before. Where as soon as you walk out the door, you kind of just, whatever happens.
But on top of that, you made
look.
your decisions about your outfit, and the other world's opinion of it doesn't really matter that much. It's like, okay, this is where I need to go. I'm going to wear this, and you're not going to get self-conscious and change the tie because someone told you something. It's like, no, this is what it is, so just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just one of those things where
beautiful cat on Jason's cat.
Thank you.
Nice pussy, Jason.
Thank you.
Nope.
Really?
But
we're going into TOS now? I think we're long past that even.
God damn it, totally distracted me what I was about to say.
Academic pussy.
Way to go,
like,
Jason.
I this idea of being, I don't know, effortless is a funny, uniquely menswear kind of a thing, right? Where we just have to assume that when you wear it, you want to be inoffensive and have elegance and and look like you were competent, but also not thinking too hard on it, but you did think hard on it.
That's
and,
insane. I would never think all of those things at the same time.
But that's like kind of the goal of menswear, or at least in a lot of like menswear media, a lot of like this world around it. It doesn't, and all of those things that, as like we said with Derek, as Derek wrote about maybe I'll link this somewhere when I do the recap of this episode of this little stream. But once you start thinking about clothing outside of classic menswear, it makes it easier to get into the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's this like thing where like, I think he talks about it being when you think about like the sociological stuff, historical stuff, like, or maybe more of a costume, it's a different mindset than menswear. And all of the arguments about menswear, Flash versus Fuddy, or whether or not something's appropriate, it all kind of goes out the window, because it's like, well, now you're not thinking about like, oh, well, if you wear that, it's too much of a look. Like, what if you want that look, right? And and maybe the reason why we're maybe not fighting this, because this is a very good, thought-provoking essay. It's that idea of we just don't think about it like that.
And I think we've said this before, but it's worth stating that this takes time and a lot of trial and error to do. And I think a lot of the reason we have these lists or these things or demand for lists is people don't want to do it. They just want to know now. So you will never find out if you just want it now and you bang your hand on the table. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of trial and error, but you'll get there. So we don't know this just waking up and we know this in our brains. We have to ask these questions and these contradictions and then try stuff. Trial and error, both.
Yeah, trial and error. There is no secret shortcut. I mean, we're we have 10 minutes left because we started a little bit late today. But there is that idea that's pretty common with the men's, or it could be with any kind of hobby. But it's like, how do you avoid all the mistakes? How do you kind of game the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is the topic that Kyoshi wants to write about, something that we've also hinted at, where we can't tell you how to look good. Like, we can't recommend you the shortcut outside of our own preferences. Like, there is a good article by Hodinky that says we can't tell you what watch to buy because there is no shortcut. There is it requires a lot more thought than just what's your budget.
Well, be honest, there's a chance you might not look good in high-rise pants, and that might be shocking to everyone involved, but that could be true. You have to find what works for you.
I don't believe that. I think anyone can wear
Well, I think it could be for some of these people. I think some of these details we adore, yeah, they might have slight variances, but that's the beauty of it. They get to find it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, clothing's a very personal thing, and I know a lot of the commenters are kind of hinting at that. It's like they're almost there. Where as we talked about, just like with Axel in the Discord, that menswear is just an aesthetic. Like it is not this pure thing that will be. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will be inoffensive, but people will notice it and ascribe a certain attitude, preference, maybe not a judgment, but they will think something about it. And kind of owning that relationship with the normies, with the public, with the bystanders is probably the first step in kind of approaching it a different way, where it's not about one thing being flashy or fuddy, where it's more about being stuffy or slouchy, right? Do you look easygoing in this outfit? And there's a lot of things that can be conducive for it, but there's always your own way of finding out how that works. I mean, it's fine. You can wear slim pants and skinny lapel jacket. It might not be our taste, but I think maybe not slouchy by our perspective, but you can still look easygoing in that kind of a thing. So people just don't really. Some people truly just don't give a shit. Like they're not dressing for it in a classic menswear. They're just wearing it because that's just what they wore. And that's fine too. Ascribing these kind of things to it is a little bit tough, and sometimes it doesn't even matter. Like as Spencer and I have talked about, even slouch versus stuffiness. That's just our way of thinking about it. But in the end, it doesn't. Like, who the fuck cares? Like I mean, it's just for us to critique ourselves, and that might be the better way of doing this, because what a lot of menswear media tries to tell you to do is that you are going to be ascribed by other people to being flash or fuddy. But what's more important is if you think you are being too flashy or fuddy. And that's always the better way of thinking about it, because that will affect how you wear it. It's a hard mentality to get behind, which again, like Matt says, can only happen over trial and error and experimenting and everything. But it's it's better to self-critique, because at the end of the day, you don't know what people are thinking, and more often than not,
I don't.
God knows we've tried.
Yeah, and they probably just don't know they probably don't care,
I know this is a bit.
Good. Yeah,
I know this is a bit late to introduce, but
please.
Is there a way to look flashy versus fuddy in fit pics?
No.
I think your pose, yeah.
I was gonna
Just
say,
use your cell phone and go to mirror at the end.
well, the sad part, right, is that the pictures he picked are not the best way of like they're like as much as I said earlier, like it's just too much of the extreme. It's like we got the what's his name of Cristiano Ronaldo wearing fucking like and super
The
flashy
t-shirt with the
or
vest
whatever.
and the weird
Like,
rolled
what is
up.
he, a magician?
Yeah.
And then you've got like people from like the Tweed run from like, and it doesn't even look that recent. It looks like a really old picture, and it's like one of those things where the way you take the picture can help your case or not, and the way you act in the foot pic. This is why, again, Ivan, this might be too late to talk about it, but
Yep.
When we start thinking about things in terms of social media and putting stuff out there, that is an added level of how you present yourself that make it tough, because I think you can quote dress fuddy, but you can still take a picture and look good. There's a couple of vintage people, Japanese dressers, guys in London, whatever, that dress really well, and they don't look too fuddy. Look, there's a lot of energy in the photos. It feels authentic, And then there's a lot of pictures of like flashy guys who take the shittiest pictures, kind of canceling out whatever sex appeal that they're trying to do, if that's what their whole point is.
The
They're
Barry
reading a
Lansford
book.
poses,
Because
Yeah.
grabbing the lapels and leaning forward.
Exactly.
Because
But it's
you're
that
walking naturally.
Bone dry.
Right. And this kind of goes to something that we've talked about very briefly in the Discord with me and JTR, where like you don't have to share everything on social media, obviously, because there's privacy and what you're comfortable with for your online personality. But the more things you put out there, the easier the easier it is for other people to make a judgment about you. And so you can kind of cancel stuff out by use that to your advantage. Like, I think there's a couple of guys who I can't think of anyone particularly funny or flashy, but guys like Lastrolab, where he's wearing like tailoring or whatever, kind of our similar style, military workwear mixed in with menswear, classic menswear. But some of the pictures are kind of silly. He's like holding like a phone, whatever. And I feel like that kind of helps his case, where it shows that he doesn't really take it too seriously. And it people find it, he goes, okay, well, they are getting the information about the clothing and the personality at the same time, as opposed to, say, a static fit pick, where because it's devoid of an attitude or personality, that itself is a personality, right? Like having no personality. And so you're right, Ivan, where there is a way to where just based on the fit pick, whether you look flash versus fuddy, or maybe more specifically slouchy versus stuffy, it's
Just don't take yourself too seriously.
yeah, and it's it depends, and especially if you take too many pictures of yourself and you try and prove like, hey guys, I'm not fuddy, it's kind of fuddy, or
funny. Yeah.
Telling people that you're not telling people that you're slouchy.
Look at how in touch I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not old. Look at all this black hair I have.
David says here, it would do everyone a lot of good to be less judgmental. Codifying things is fine, but when you start using them to bring others down, it's gone too far. Being less judgmental, even towards ourselves, make everyone else's lives nicer. Yeah, that's kind of
That's boring.
That's the downside of that's the downside of codifying, right? Where the more we start to kind of ascribe things to things, you start to use it to judge and kind of put it on a spectrum, and maybe one's more superior than the other or whatever. And it's tough. It's tough to not think about this stuff, because Spencer and I, and hopefully we don't come across like that, but we're very used to putting things in specific categories. It is a good way of buying vintage, because how else would you know what era or what thing you're buying? But it would ideally be great if people didn't judge. And I think that it's not, it's not right to judge other people. It's better to judge yourself. But of course, don't judge yourself too harshly, because at the very least, you don't want to overthink things. As some of the commenters and even some of us in the Discord, myself included, have done. You know, it's not really
Don't-
conducive
Keep it simple,
to do
stupid.
it.
Kiss, baby.
Yeah.
Keep
I
it
think,
simple,
again, like-
Samuel.
I think that your gut is a good,
Uh-huh.
you know,
I
a good
agree.
judge.
That's why I eat probiotic yogurt. That way I have good gut health.
Good health. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, you know, you'll know what's being too flashy or what's too funny, you know, and you know, only you will know your context better than anybody else. And if not, you can always inquire, you know. And a lot of the stuff again still deals with the context that you're in, what groups you're in, what circles you are in, because like you might be a realtor where everyone is wearing a blue suit and tan shoes. And maybe you're fine there. And
Yeah.
maybe you don't have to wear high-waisted pants. So like, you know, like even though we do think it's better and you should do it, maybe, you know, if your goal is to kind of fit in with your friends and maybe not look like calling attention to yourself with high-waisted pants and pleats, maybe, yeah, you'll know whether or not
Or just
that's
how
okay.
you do it. Skip the Gurkha diaper for just some Tyler shorts.
Yeah, I mean, I
Pick
think
up
that
the damn diaper.
Pick
Right.
up the damn diaper.
Pick out the diaper.
That's a new meme of the day.
Yeah, take
Yep.
off the diaper. I'm gonna
gotta
put that
take
in
it
my
off.
next suit.
I'm afraid I'm on fire.
I'm afraid I'm on fire. Gotta take off the diaper.
I kind of want that now in one of my suits.
Well, no,
you
see,
know?
I said it. I gotta.
I know.
Yeah.
You're,
Spencer
You
gets
Yeah,
get,
it
you
for
get
his
all the
Atelier
good
Feud.
quotes. Yeah, that's what's gonna be in my Atelier Feud suit. I'm afraid
That'd
I'm
be
on
That'd
fire.
if it's not.
Yeah,
I
Oh
really,
my
I
God.
really hope I get it before the first day of the new semester because I'm writing for the school paper, which is like that's like a part-time job. I'm going in literally Monday to
Part-time.
Friday.
Mhm.
But yeah, I want to wear my blue suit the first day in there, man.
Let's get it.
Feel like a reporter
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Report of the week.
Mhm.
Food review.
with your fedora and your trench coat. Everything's in black and white once you put it on.
There you go. I gotta put
Everything.
a little press thing in my Stetson. That's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
wear to every
I-
every
I-
story that I cover.
And I think, you know,
It's
to
kind
go-
of funny.
close off this topic here, I feel like a lot of us have spades of both of it. I mean, I think that thinking of it as a dichotomy is kind of, I mean, not a dichotomy,
It's a
spectrum,
dyad in
right?
the force.
He does. He does.
Mm.
To give Simon credit, I think he does refer to it as a spectrum, and I think you can incorporate elements of both. And I think good classic menswear does do both because it's kind of like it's. This is more about how the viewers are seeing it, and then us subverting those expectations. You know, like I think someone commented said, "Yeah, gray flannels, but then with a flight jacket, you know, or a leather jacket or something." And I can think of a good example of like, you know, like Jason, your style with like, you know, the crop trouser, you know, and
Mhm.
bold check jacket, which is kind of flash, but then you've got like White Sox penny loafers, a little bit fuddy, you know, a little roll to your collar roll to your outfit,
Mhm.
you know.
A little bit of everything all of the time, if you will.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, yeah. Or I could think of like Spencer, right, wearing like a you know, a fucking like seersucker jacket, which is kind of fuddy, but then cowboy boots and a
Dope
Western
as
hat,
hell.
kind of flash.
That's cool.
Or even me wearing like, you know, my navy blue suit, which is, you know, a kind of fuller cut, you know, wide lapels, but soft shoulder, a little more vintage looking, but then sawtooth shirt and Chelsea boots, you know, to add some.
Well, then I
flash
think
to
that
it.
means it's safe to say that if you combine the two, you get cool.
Huh. Well, no, I mean that's what I was
Yeah.
saying earlier. When it's like it seems weird to judge individual pieces by saying like in a vacuum, by
Yeah.
saying is this by itself too fussy or
I
funny?
agree.
Right? It's not about the one piece. It's about how you combine
The
it
whole,
with everything
yeah.
else. It's about the
Leave
whole-
that enemy out of it.
And to be clear, Simon does talk about this where
Mhm.
he's like, you know, where at the end of it he does refer to like Western style, which is like got it's kind of a rugged look that is flashy. Like it's not, you know, it still has elements of it. Or why Ivy is traditional, but it has sporty elements and this kind of got this casual air to it. You know, so he does talk about how in the end it is a very overall holistic spectrum to be on. But I do think that even then, those spectrums, or these genres of outfits, have elements of that spectrum. You know, like it's not just about how Ivy is not just Fuddy, but it's got flash to it. I mean, good examples like rowing blazers, right? Like where you wear something that you could think like a rugby shirt, but then it's got bold colors. And I
Yeah.
think a good personal style, and this is something for the future where um in the end, the good style is not something inoffensive, but is something that you can just kind of tell is there. And personally, I find that as the combination of Flash and Fuddy, basically because you ascribe your own um, monikers for these things and you use it to your advantage. Because sometimes a Fuddy thing can be flashy for some people. Like you can wear like a slim fit suit and then wear like I don't know like a very bag. I don't. Maybe that's not a good look, but I feel like there at some point there is a way to combine both, and everyone here in the Discord, Patreon, and whatever, and even Sadhead Saturday is a good example of it. And it's not something to be avoided. It's a good mindset to be in, because it should help you think critically about what you have, and make a cool outfit with it. Experiment, as Matt said. Find out what that is. Find out through process of elimination what outfit might be just too Fuddy for you, or what outfit might be too stuffy or too slouchy.
And play with boundary, yeah.
Play with boundaries, and again, this might not be something that the readers of Permanent Style could be into. Obviously, I don't know if experimentation and pushing boundaries and finding out where you can skirt the line with a dress code is good career advice for these people. But if you are awarded kind of like us, and like we said before with our the demographic of the blog and the podcast, which tends to skew a lot younger, a lot more creative, thankfully we're able to kind of have fun with it, and hopefully you guys like that too.
Hopefully.
But don't judge. Don't blame us if you guys get fired.
Don't blame me. Voted for the other guy.
That's right.
Just kidding. Well, that was our discussion on Simon Crompton's Fussy v. Fuddy decision.
The roast of Simon Crompton.
Really Crompton. Great stuff. Unlike Berkeley Breeds, I did not give Simon a warning that we were doing this. But it's not. I mean, yeah, guys, go ahead and read it. It's It's not a bad article.
For his big call out response post to this.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
we need to have like menswear like drama YouTubers who will be like style and direction just shot back at Simon Crompton.
No, I would love it if he was on here to discuss this.
No, that would be absolutely.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, a great menswear mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, we wouldn't. I mean, Permanent Style, this is a really good. It's really good insight into the way that the greater classic menswear world, the menswear industry, and the luxury menswear space views things. And I think a lot of us would. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to think about some stuff without seeing his articles first. And I can again say for sure that a lot of us classic menswear tends to deal with more on the Fuddy side, but then it's a question of what is flashy within that niche, right? That's where the fun challenge is.
Very fun.
Yeah. Open invitation for Simon. I don't know what time it is in Europe or in the UK.
In London, I will tell you what time it is in London. It's probably pretty late.
It's 6 a.m.
Yeah, over in London, it's 6:16 a.m.
Yeah,
pretty late here in Wisconsin too.
Yeah,
looks like
that's why we should be getting done. So let's do it.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us for this.